So Amy Edmondson is a Harvard business professor, and she wrote an article, Strategies for Learning from Failure. And so in the article, you have the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, you have blameworthy failures. And this starts off with deviants. I love it, we all know deviants. They're the ones that are the knuckleheads that blatantly, yeah, we all work with knuckleheads, right? They're the ones that break policies and procedures. And as you go down the spectrum, you can see it's inattention, maybe task complexity, and you get down to the bottom of the spectrum, and you have praiseworthy failure, exploratory testing and hypothesis testing. Her main point is that when organizations look at failure, there's this misperception that failure and high standards of organizational performance cannot coexist. And she disagrees, because not all failures are created equally. When you have a spectrum and you look at failures and you judge them based on the spectrum, you can figure out which ones are actually blameworthy and which ones are more praiseworthy. So, how many here have a praiseworthy failure model in your organization? 1, 2, 3.5.
I'll give another half point here.
Okay. All right, maybe 10%. How many have a blameworthy failure model?
Yeah.
Welcome, have both. B? Super, big B, okay. So, she interviewed a bunch of executives, and she said, okay, now I've explained to you the spectrum of reasons for failure. Think about last year's failures. How many of them were actually blameworthy failures? And they said, oh, about 2 to 5%. She said, okay, well, how many did you treat as blameworthy failures? And they said, 80 to 90%. So the consequence of this is that these failures will go unreported and you'll miss out on the lessons learned. So I mentioned that I have an approach and method that is the 7 ingredients to collaborative innovation. One of those ingredients is to define, reinforce, and reward praiseworthy failure. Because you have to reward bold and well-conceived attempts at breaking through conventional constraints.